Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your host, Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm. Bob will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons.
So what do you do when you live on a cotton farm in New Mexico and you don't want to keep doing that the rest of your life? Do you go play football and get a good scholarship? Is that the way out? And what is your goal long term? Well, today's guest is Adam, and Adam, I'm going to let you tell me how to pronounce your last name properly.
It's German. It's Walterscheid.
Walterscheid. Well, okay, so that's much more phonetic than I would have thought. I thought you were going to come up with something really
Definitely a kicker's name.
Weird. Absolutely. Well, Adam built TShirt Tycoon. You can find them on the web at ttycoon.com. And I'm excited about this show. This is interesting because it's not the normal thing. You know, we've never had a T-shirt guy on the show before. So that seems like you're doing that differently than everybody else. So I'm excited to learn more about it. Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. You know, I love the next level and propelling everybody forward, so I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So tell me about growing up on a cotton farm. You must have had to work your tail off.
Well, in my family, it's a fourth generation cotton farmer, right? So I grew up in the house my dad grew up in. You know, German family. You know, you do it one way, you do it the right way. You look people in the eye, you do a firm handshake. Got to sit in on all my dad's business meetings my whole life, you know,
nice.
From negotiating tractors down to how to share crop and negotiate those type of deals. And so at an early age, I got to kind of understand business, not realizing it. And then he put me on the manual, on the labor side of it. So my first job was $2.50 an hour, and he literally gave me a hoe and put me in a cotton field and said, chop every weed in this field, and I'll pick you up at noon. And so I did that for 3 solid summers. And
how old were you at that time?
I was right around 10, and
Wow.
I had a driver's license at the age of 12. I had a radio in my room. My dad bells hay at the middle of the night. He would call me up. I would go pick them up in the field, come back. So at 12 years old, I had a vehicle. I'd go get in it. I'd go pick them up, bring them back. So I had responsibilities, right, daily or even work ethic wise that most kids didn't have at that age. I had chores in the morning before I caught the bus for school. I had chores when I got home. And when you walk into the backyard in a farm, you're in work 24/7, 7
Can't
days a week.
get away from it.
So work ethic was ingrained in me early. And, you know, taking that to an athletic field and a technical skill like, say, kicking, it allowed me to hone my skills, really understand kind of what I was doing. And, you know, my dad talked business with me early. He asked me what I wanted to do, if I was interested in the cotton farm early when I was probably 12. I told him I wasn't.
Were you the only son?
No, I have a younger brother, but I'm the first black sheep. He's a doctor, so that tells you. And he worked on the cotton farm for basically 2 full years and decided I'm going to go to TCU and be an anesthesiologist. So that's what he did, and he's in his first year in Santa Fe as an acting anesthesiologist. So
Sisters?
2 sisters, both older. They carried the household. You know, they did the cleaning, the cooking, the laundry. They raised us for the most part. My mom was always there, but she was too a professional. She's a registered RN. She's a CEO of a hospice, and she's also a women's ministry pastor.
Wow.
So very active family.
Very industrious family. My goodness. You know,
Very
my
much.
mother grew up on a farm as well in Florida, not in New Mexico. But, yeah, she was driving at 10, 12 years old as well. And the thing that was funny about your story is I didn't know you could get a license. I mean, I knew that she would drive around
only on farm-to-market roads.
Okay.
So it wasn't allowed in town. Only on farm-to-market roads, and I had to be outside the city limits.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. My grandfather.
Can't say I always followed the rules, though.
Well, of course. What kind of a kid would you have been?
Right.
Yeah, my grandfather put me in a car when I was 8 years old and had me drive it from the mechanic shop to his house, which is in a rural area, but 8 years old, and he wasn't even in the car with me.
Oh,
He
wow.
was in the car in front of me. And he actually asked my brother, who was a year older than I was, if he wanted to do it. And my brother was like, no, I'm afraid to. So I said, I'll do it, like an idiot. But we got there without a crash, so I guess it wasn't horrible.
I learned how to drive on a 1979 Datsun Standard.
Wow.
You almost couldn't make a mistake.
At least mine was automatic. That would have been terrible. I couldn't have reached the clutch, really.
Well,
So-
luckily, this thing is short and compact. So, standing on my tippy toes, I could kind of reach and probably didn't get over third gear most of the time. I couldn't find fourth, so it was pretty simple. I stayed steady Eddie on the road, and I enjoyed it. I had my own go-kart and all kinds of things. We have a river that runs through the middle of the cotton farm, and so I grew up, being adventurous, outdoorsman.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, my dad would come in and turn the lights on and tell me he wasn't running a hotel. Get up, let's go. Right.
So what did he do? How did he react whenever you, at 12 years old, said, "This is not what I want to do in my life"?
He told me, that's fine. Everybody picks their own path. Just, think through working for yourself. Whatever you're going to do, try to do it for yourself. And I, at the time I didn't really process it, but as I got older and as I, became an athlete and had aspirations of going to college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to work for myself. And so I wouldn't have thought T-shirts would be the widget that kind of led me to that process. But, that widget touches everybody, every consumer in the world.
Yeah.
I service industries that are billions of dollars in total sales, and the number one widget is a T-shirt. And so I just try to do the T-shirt better than anybody, and it's become my sport.
Sure. So was this your first company that you built, the T-shirt company?
No, the first company I built, I started in my dorm room in college. It was called Pony Express Printing. I was going to take over SMU's campus in T-shirts, right? Huge aspirations. And within the first about month, I was able to do that. Gained probably 30 to 40,000 a month in sales. Had unbelievable margins. Before I knew it, 6 months later, I had a lot of cash in the bank. I paid the printer that was doing all the work to let me watch the process like I was farming.
Now, this is printing T-shirts for what?
Fraternities and sororities.
Okay. So special events and whatever they were doing.
Philanthropy, special events, mixers, football games, all kinds of things on a college campus. So it taught me the dynamics of a college campus, which as a consumable product, there are companies that would dream about getting on a college campus. Just think of beer companies that can't market on a college campus legally. They dream about finding companies that can go help them get to that audience without breaking laws. And so
Right.
what I did is I kind of duplicated myself at SMU. I created an internship program, and I ran an ad in the school newspaper. I flew to these schools throughout the Big 8, the Big 12, the WAC, and I ran interviews. And my pitch was simple. How many internships do you have? The average college student coming out of school has 3. Almost none of them had an internship. So I gave them 2 options. They could work for commission or they could work for class credit. And I would work with their counselor to get them not just an internship, but a paid internship that furthered their curriculum. And so we spawned that on about 30 different campuses. We had about 70 different reps working for us at one time.
And you're a student still.
I'm a student, yes.
Goodness.
And so I was right at the end of my tenure. I played all 48 games I was eligible for in college, place kicked, punted, and kicked off, held those duties, and I had 1 extra year of academics. I studied economics with a finance emphasis, and so as I'm going through my last year, one of the alumni asked if I wanted to manage the stores on campus for them, and so I did that, and that's kind of what got me into T-shirts. And so instead of studying for tests, I was, thinking about what I was going to call it and thinking about how I was going to set it aside and the relationships I was going to foster to gain the business, and kind of propelled me into working for myself at the time, not realizing it. But I took, SME athletics prepared me to be a professional, and they taught me how to interview. They taught me how to go get internships. So I had internships selling at car dealerships. I learned how to sell and how to talk to people and just honed my skills. Instead of going home in the summer and working on that farm, I would stay here and do internships that honed different skills. I kept my work ethic, but put that work ethic to a different widget.
So that's incredible. You did all this kind of stuff in college, and you were able to build that kind of an organization while you're still in school. What happened to that business?
Well, at the time, I had a business partner who was my roommate in college, one of my best friends, and really, we took that business to about $3.5 million, and it just outgrew our financial wherewithal. So it became stressful trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? We didn't go borrow money from our parents to start it. We didn't have any outside financing lines of credit. We literally had taken it from a couple $100 to $3.5 million and was trying to cash flow it. We weren't really sophisticated. We weren't built on technology platforms that would scale us. And so, I had a group come in that wanted to purchase the business. And as I looked into it, I looked at what would be the cost of rebuilding it versus keeping it. Mm-hmm. And it was very simple that I was in a good scenario. And I took it to being an athlete at SMU. I had access to very successful folks. One of them was Bader Bates, and he runs Highlands Bank in Highland Park. And I took the deal to him, and I said, Bader, I don't know if this is a good deal or not, man. What do I do? Bader says, he's from West Texas. He takes 30 minutes to look at the asset purchase agreement. And then he kind of puts his eyes over the deal, and he said, Adam, do you play poker? I said, I do. He said, are you any good? I said, yeah, depends on the night. He goes, well, tonight, you're real good. You're so good, you're kind of getting tired. You need to cash these chips in. You need to go get yourself a good night's sleep, hone your strategy to come back and kick their tail again next time. You got a 6-month non-compete here, and that's nothing.
No, 6 months is tomorrow.
So basically he said, I'd like to introduce you to some guys in Garland that are in the label printing business. Very sophisticated, very successful folks. They're great friends of mine. I don't even have their banking business. But I do think they'd want to diversify their business. How about I make an introduction and see where it goes? And you can kind of just move on. So he did that, and those are my partners today.
That is awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We will be back in just a moment. On the other side, we'll pick up that story.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have decided you're going to sell your business that you built to $3.5 million in sales while still in college at SMU, and that transaction goes smoothly, I assume?
Well, this was over an 8-year period from there. So,
okay.
So started it in college, took it to about $3.5 million over the 8 years, and really just bootstrapped it the whole way. Realized we couldn't scale it anymore, and was lucky enough to have someone to come in. So yeah, we took our money and ran to a certain degree. My partner stayed on with the group, and I moved on to my new group, and sat down with my partners and really just said, okay, here's the deal. I know you don't know T-shirts, but I'm looking to do something completely different in T-shirts. I don't want to go after the commoditized widget anymore. I've done that. I want to sell a Tier 2 T-shirt. I want to build culture builders. I want somebody to do a T-shirt with me because their employees are so proud to wear it because it belongs in their closet, not their drawer. I want to give them a product that has their brand in the neck. No, not Gildan or American Apparel. Mm-hmm. That brand means nothing to the consumer. The person that's purchasing to promote their business should be in that neck. And then we should offer print techniques and embellishments that play to corporate markets. Corporate markets don't have professional buyers. They buy on emotion. They buy on their brand's perceived value. They buy up. And so our merchandising strategy is to go to the distributors who will act as our sales force and that have those relationships and service contracts, and show them how we merchandise in a single PO, all in price point, and literally take it designed to ship for them. And so less than 8 years, we're somewhere around 12 million in that business model, and we're growing 20 to 30% month over month for well over 24 to 36 months. And so the business is just continuing to propel.
So let's step back a little bit though. You kind of packed a whole lot into that
Sorry
little
about
summary. No, that's good. But let's kind of back into that a little bit more then. So your banker friend introduces you to the label guys in Garland. So tell us about that. How'd that turn out?
Well, so the same week he looks at that deal, he goes to get a haircut. He's been getting a haircut at the same place for, he tells me, 20 years. He has no idea that his friend Greg Van Bieber, who's my partner, along with his brother Matt, is getting a haircut the same day, the same shop, in the chair next to him. So they kind of reconnect that day. Their wives are very good friends. They see each other on a fairly regular basis. But while they're in the barber shop, they talk and shop a little bit. And he tells them about, the meeting with me, my opportunity to kind of move on, and asks him if he'd be willing to take a meeting. So Bader calls me. I miss his call. He leaves me a voice message and says, Adam, this is Bader. I actually had a chance to catch up with Greg. Craziest thing ever. I was getting a haircut. Didn't even know he got a haircut there. Here's his number. He says he'd like to meet with you. I said, great. So I pick up the phone, thinking to myself, what am I going to say to this guy? Where do I start? I don't have a business plan. I don't have anything in writing. I don't know how formal they are or anything. So, but I've got to make the call. He's expecting my call. So I make the call. He takes my call. I'm trying to set a meeting, and, he's about to leave for Vegas. And so I just kind of said, Greg, this time is of the essence. I've got something I want to do. I'm very aggressive and very passionate about it. I'm sure that if you gave me 1 hour of your time before you left, you could make a decision one way or another whether this was right or not.
Wow, that's bold.
He said, okay, come in tomorrow. So I spent the night researching his company, learning about all I could online based on their website. And I learned a lot. I learned that they were an ISO 9001 company. Had no idea what that was. Mm-hmm. But that was the platform. That was the formula I needed for scalability in manufacturing. So I learned very quickly that these gentlemen had been doing this for 30 years, and they had honed their system. It was a second-generation business. We had that in common together. And I didn't know their personalities, but right when I got to meet with him, I could tell he was passionate about what he was doing. I'm a production mind at the end of the day in T-shirts, and I figured out real quick his knowledge far exceeded mine in just manufacturing, how he had built his shop, the differences between it. And so we go through that facility tour. He asked me if I want to go to lunch. He just happens to grab his brother. We all go to an On the Border, and there I am in On the Border. I go to the bathroom. I tell the waitress, please don't come back to this table for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Please get our drinks. Let me have 30 minutes, and then you can serve us fast, and these gentlemen are going to want to go. So we got our drinks, and I basically broke down my business model and explained to them the math of my business model, which is I want to build my own distributor network. So I want to be a supply chain, not a printer. I want to build my own distributor network built on sales professionals that are independent contractors that represent our factories to their customers. In that business model, that industry is $23 billion. It's called the Ad Specialty Institute or Promotional Products Association International.
Okay.
Of the $23 billion spent annually on promotional products or anything branded to promote your business, the number one widget is a T-shirt at 20% of the industry, roughly $5 billion annually.
I had no idea.
So I told them I'd like to build a network of distributors of this that streamlines this $5 billion. And I'd like to consolidate the industry at 2 to 4% of the industry into a single PO, tier 2 product that promotes the widget different, focusing on the closet of their target audience, not the drawer.
What does that mean? As far as you've mentioned a couple of times, the tier 2, and you've also mentioned, I'm sorry, there was something else you just mentioned about that before tier 2. But
well, basically what it means is that it's not a cheap promo. Radio stations are notorious for giving out cheap T-shirts.
Okay.
Right. No one wants them. They're rough. They're scratchy. The radio station has a concert. They throw them out. They never see them again, and it becomes a souvenir. Right? So it's the difference between a T-shirt that's a souvenir. That goes to your drawer. It may never come out. And if it does, it's around the friends and family around the house. Yeah. Mowing the yard, washing the car. There's 57,000 printers in the United States that can give you that. There's very few that focus on the closet. The closet is a lifestyle garment. It's a retail quality garment. It's one that you're going to go and proudly pick and put on and be proud to endorse around town as a walking billboard by the brand that you chose to wear that day. And so it's a different emotional connection. When I take that strategy to a creative group of people like a promotional products distributor, give them that messaging, give them that product, it's amazing what they can do with it with their clients. Their clients trust them. They manage their brand for their client. And so my job is to put them in a position to make their milk route.
Okay, so you're building a lot more credibility for your client, the ultimate client, even though you're doing that through a distributor network. Do you actually get in front of the client, the end user client ever, or is that?
I do. When I'm invited, I get to go and kind of be the technical product development, business development mind of it. I speak to timelines. I never speak to price. I speak to what can be done and what can't be done. And I mix fabrics with ink types and dye types to let them know what can be executed. So if I'm dealing with John Deere, I would help them manage their brand on my canvas and make sure that it matches their TV spots, their signage, all of those things, down to the John Deere green T-shirt that does not exist on a shelf. No one makes John Deere green. Someone had to make that T-shirt. In Garland, I've taken what was in Los Angeles in the Apparel District, and I've put it in Dallas, right in Garland, Texas, and it's private label. We're your silent but proud third-party supply chain. And essentially, we have a print design center, and we have a wash and dye house where we do our own different processes that soften and decorate the garments.
Now, speaking of that, you have a process that's something to do with butter.
It's called the butter wash.
The butter wash. That doesn't quite sound all that like I want to be wearing the T-shirt after that, but I'm sure I must.
Well, there's no margarine for error to make your target audience's closet, right? Yeah, and essentially it's just a fun way to describe super soft T-shirts. I don't know one consumer, young or old or age, race, or gender, that doesn't appreciate soft.
Yeah.
And what I can guarantee with the butter wash is that mine is always softer, regardless of the brand.
Now, is that because of the process or because of what you're starting with in the first place? The material you started with, it must be a better
Anything
quality.
can be butter washed.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what brand or quality I start with. It just means that I've finished it with the butter wash, and the butter wash breaks up the surface tensions of the fabric. It's basically a softening cocktail. I have industrial washers that wash at extreme high temperatures, and something that you would see in a hotel, laundry room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have dryers that tumble, and it lifts these fibers, and it makes this garment feel like it's been worn 20 times or been around for 20 years. But it doesn't change the color of the garment. It makes the garment go a shade darker. So you can't tell this garment's been washed, but it is so soft that when you touch it, you can sense the butter.
Does that only work on T-shirts, cotton, or does it work on other stuff?
It works on every fabric type other than 100% polyester. And it's not that it doesn't work on polyester. It doesn't change the polyester makeup enough that it's worth the investment.
I
So,
gotcha.
Performance T-shirt, not really made to be soft. It's already soft. It's made of polyester. It breathes well. So the attributes of that garment wouldn't be butter worthy, but cotton or cotton-rich fabrics or polyester, polylinen, those type of things, those take butter, and it makes the drape, the softness of this fabric, unlike anything in the marketplace.
Is this a process that you've sort of patented or trademarked or whatever the proper protection would be?
I'd like to tell folks I haven't invented anything. I've just lined the dots up differently. And I can't take credit for an invention per se. I would just tell you that the combinations in which I'm building the product is much different than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
What printer would have access to their own wash house and dye house? What I call my butter house. So my butter house is 2 miles from my print design center in Garland, and we streamline both of those facilities through the same technology software. So it's all scheduled real time. It's all quick logistics, and it's basically how Los Angeles apparel industry works.
Huh. I don't know that much about the apparel industry, so I didn't realize that L.A. was the hub of a lot of that.
Los Angeles is the apparel district. That's where probably 80% of all USA-made product comes from. They import there, so fabrics are stored there. industry is there in cut and sew, all kinds of different things. And so everybody just kind of close by in the industrial that just moves things
Sticks
around
together.
and makes it full package.
Cool. All right, we're going to take another quick break. Be
Sounds
right
great.
back. Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts. When you negotiate for that renewal option, why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. Okay, so we talked about the butter, and I still think that may be something you ought to trademark or patent the process or whatever. But
Certainly in the process of trademarking it. I want to protect the name.
Okay.
But even a patent allows people to see what I'm actually trying to protect. And I think the ability for them not to see what I'm trying to protect allows them to not reverse engineer it.
Now, that's a good point. Most people think they got to go out and protect, but you make a great point that you actually have to disclose exactly what you're doing in that case.
Which allows the reverse process to begin.
And they change one little thing, and then they're no longer violating your patent.
That's right.
Brilliant. I like that. So is there an opportunity for, or maybe you're already doing this, where you do that butter process for garments that you're not manufacturing yourself?
Of course.
So
every day.
So you're doing that for a lot of other people?
You know, a lot of my clients have T-shirts that their client already likes, you know, and so why reinvent the wheel of the fit? If there's a fit that the brand really likes, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't matter what I do to it. So I try not to reinvent the fit. I try to keep it simple, right? So if you've got a garment you like, give me a design budget. Let me build you the best product for the price geared toward your target audience's closet. And let me help you show your client the biggest ROI they could ever imagine in walking billboards.
So what percentage of the product that comes through your shop is something that you've designed, you manufactured, and you went through the butter versus those that just kind of come in from the butter process?
It's a great question. So we make our own USA-made T-shirt. It's what really makes us unique as well.
I was going to say, that's got to be like you're the only one. Who makes T-shirts in the
There's
US?
really only about 2 or 3 of us that really put it out in a stocking solution and decorate it and do the deal. And so American Apparel went bankrupt, was rebought by Gildan. So I'm up against the almighty giant with Gildan, and I'm trying to compete. But in U.S. manufacturing, it's about being small and nimble. And American Apparel, or that garment, is only a third of the wheel of the process. It still takes a designer, and it still takes a printer, and I'm all 3.
Okay.
So I've built my process backwards, knowing that I wasn't an apparel manufacturer. I was a printer, but it's all about decoration in corporate markets and brand integrity and holding and managing their brand.
How do you compete though with the offshore manufacturing? I mean, I got to think that they're going to be a lot less expensive.
No doubt. That's the commoditized side of the business. You know, $5 billion of it. I would tell you $4.5 billion of it is commoditized product. Uniform programs where Walmart wants to put $3 in a high turnover uniform T-shirt. Honestly, I don't compete in that, and I think having the ability to say no is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Having the ability to kind of pick and choose the type of projects you want to work on and supply all of the labor and all of the design. I'm putting my own investment in this distributor because I'm supplying all the resources. All they have to do is sell and market the product. I build the presentation, drop them the samples, and build it all to their specifications.
So who is your ideal customer?
Well, my ideal customer is basically a sales professional that sells logoed product or branded product. Could be a Hurley Volcom rep that goes into a Bucky's and sells them all those name brands and then has a relationship with the buyer and knows that they want to build their own brand. And so what I do is I go in and represent that factory direct relationship that they desire, and I offer them a domestic private label solution. Sure, they can go overseas, and they can buy in much higher quantities, and they can buy at a lower price, but they have to stock it and fund it all, where I can build it more real time, and there's no inventory, and I can drop it and build it to the time frames that make sense. So Buckys is one of my clients. I build their private label. We move a lot of T-shirts together, and it's really a beautiful scenario. They're a Texas-made brand. They're a one-day ship from me, and I can run a real-time model with them.
And they're growing.
And they're growing like crazy.
I mean, from the time I first knew of them, probably not quite 10 years ago, they've increased the number of locations by 8 times or something.
Right now they're sitting at 14 Supercenters.
Oh my
They're going to
goodness.
move to 20 Supercenters in less than 18 to 24 months.
That's incredible.
What they do and how they do it is truly unique. Talk about a true destination. They're not in towns. You have to drive to where their audience is different every day. And I don't know of a brand that attracts a mom for the clean bathrooms and the kids for the novelty souvenirs and the dad for the beef jerky, right? So it's got all these attributes that everybody in the car says, oh, wait, I can hold it only 52 miles to Bucky's.
No kidding. My daughter and I went to the Bucky's on the way to Houston as we were going to get her visa at the Italian embassy. She was going to go to school in Italy for college.
Nice.
And we just happened to go by this thing, didn't even know what it was or anything about it. But every time we stop there now, my wife and I will stop there, we'll take a photo of that and text it to our daughter just to tease her because she lives in Washington, D.C. now. So she doesn't get to go to Bucky's often. So that's cool, but a little off topic. So in your ideal client, you're talking about that sales professional. So you're obviously focused on a network of sales professionals that you're dealing with that have the relationships to connect you with the ultimate end user. How do you reach all those people? Is there a clear network of those folks?
Well, that was the first question my partners asked me at that lunch. So how do you get to this? I mean, you can't be the only one to know about it. And I said, well, you're right. I mean, I carved my first business out of the wrong business inside that niche, but with the same guys that know all of the distributors. They've been doing it for 30 years. So they know who has the business. They know the service contracts. They have relationships with them and credibility. They're going to walk me in. They're going to let me tell my story, and we're going to farm these T-shirt fields. I'm going to plant trees, not weeds. I'm going to go in. I'm going to slowly but surely touch them a certain number of times each year, and I'm going to build a relationship with them to the point that they trust me with their business, and they're going to realize that I'm a competitive advantage that differentiates them, and it's because I'm helping them build T-shirt annuities through their clients' brands inside that neck, and it's going to protect their business because their competitor would have no idea how to replace it. They would not know what garment it is. They would not know what fabric it was. They wouldn't know anything about it. So I'm basically in the annuity business. It just happens to be in the form of a T-shirt.
Interesting. So how long did it take you to get going with this model?
The first year I had 6 months I couldn't sell. So for 6 months, I did like the ultimate entrepreneur project. I hired a few folks, a graphic designer, account executives, future account executives, and I began to teach them the work ethic that it would take, the key point indicators of what we were looking for in clients. We sourced our equipment. We built our logos. We built our brand guidelines. We built our presentations. We built our proofs. And we began to practice the act of presenting and producing all in the same motion, so that by the time the 6 months was up, it was like turning on the lights in a building. I could just flip the switch and immediately start. So in the first year, we did roughly $750,000 in sales in 6 months.
Wow.
But I had my multi-line reps, the ones with the relationships, already out telling them, this is coming. It's not available yet. There's a non-compete that's got to take place. I can't tell you who it is. I can't tell you what it is. All I can tell you is it's going to be much different than any supplier I've brought in.
So you had pent-up demand ready to go when that non-compete
I think in sales,
expired.
if you can build anticipation any way possible, if you can start to tell them what to expect, their curiosity starts running, their need in their own mind starts building. And that was kind of the anticipation we were going for and that we actually pulled off.
Interesting. And so is it fair to say that anybody that's out there that's selling promotional products is a prospective distributor
It is.
relationship with you?
Absolutely. We kind of look at this like a betting on a horse race. We want to bet on the jockey. We want the jockey to ride the race that we want to run together. And if they can ride the race we want to run, then we're going to go put ourselves in a lot of races, and we'll let our record speak for ourselves.
So in that 6 months when you were getting everything sort of geared up, you were talking about you had a graphics designer. What was being designed if you didn't have any customer yet to design their logos or their
We were
message?
practicing on our own.
Okay.
And so in branding and in promotional products, you're going and you're doing this for everyone else. But very few sit down and do it for themselves and do it with great intent. So we didn't have a choice. We had a time frame. We had to do something. And I had to show them what we were going to do and kind of build up the regimen that it was going to take. So we did it on our own. We spent weeks on our logo. We spent weeks on our taglines. And I had sales professionals that I was training on how to sell it, playing a role in why we were building it the way we were building it. And, we named it TShirt Tycoon. TShirt Tycoon says something without really having to say a whole lot. And ultimately, I taught them kind of what TShirt Tycoon was and what it stood for and how it was different than every other T-shirt in the market. And the same guys and gals that I trained are still with me today. And, we're all flourishing together and they see their career path. I tried to show them that what we were doing was the same thing for myself as an investor I was giving them as an employee, which was a career path, a process they could trust, something they could carve out, something that I would hope that my dad would have given his employees on the farm.
So TShirt Tycoon, what does that mean to you? I mean, obviously tycoon means that you're giant and you're the best and all the rest, but what did you feel like that was communicating?
We were going to swim upstream when everyone was swimming downstream. We were going to be the purple cow in the room. Mm-hmm. We were going to be different for the sake of being innovative. We don't want to be perfect. Perfection is the number one killer of innovation. We want to lead in innovation. We want to be very different. And being different is being comfortable being different. And most people's inclination is not to be different. It's to fit in amongst the crowd.
Yeah.
And what I tried to do was teach them that it's okay to be a purple cow in a regular pen and why we were purple and what made us special. And to me, that was the way we offered our widget. We just lined the dots up differently.
Well, it gave them a feeling of belonging and a sense of purpose. And so many companies that are in a commodity business don't really, why be here versus there versus anywhere else? They're all the same. We're going to have to take one more last break. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
Okay, we're back talking to Adam, and we're talking about TShirt Tycoon. You can find them at ttycoon.com. And so what is your marketing strategy for growth right now?
Well, our marketing strategy for growth is everyone's marketing strategy. It's getting more communicative to our clients on all the social media channels. It's streamlining. I haven't sent out one email to one of my clients all year. I don't need to. I have more business coming in than I can actually filter through. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to streamline my client's experience. I'm trying to give them a process they can trust. Part of that is defining the process before I communicate the process. Mm-hmm. And so right now I've been defining the process. I've been hiring and training new folks, and I've been creating nimble but scalable teams and pod selling that allows them to focus on geographical locations and to get deeper with the client base that we have, not necessarily broader with new clients.
So tell me about that. You called it pod selling, and certain geographic. How are you deciding which geographies to have one of your people in?
Well, my multi-line representation have states that they cover. That's broken into geographical territory map, and then I have territory managers that are in charge of that territory and the results and sales from it. Their job is to get deeper with the current clients, while I have a new business team, that's the new business pod, that focuses on only the new business and getting them trained on all of our new tools and how to survive inside of our Yorco brand. And our Yorko brand is our sales tool. It streamlines the process and makes the distributor the expert without knowing a ton about my product.
Well, and you call this the Yorko, your label, your brand. Break that down for me. What does that mean?
I couldn't go to market as TShirt Tycoon because I would look like a brand and there would be a threat to me competing with my distributors. So instead, I took all my capabilities and packaged it up in what looked like a brand. But Yorko means your company, your label, your brand, and it says private label without saying private label. If I told my dad, and my dad's asked many times, what is it that you do? I said, Dad, I'm a private label clothing manufacturer. And he said, what?
What does that mean?
I said, well, I've got this brand that I offer called Yorko for your company. It comes in the neck. So you'd be promoting your farm when you gave this to, one of your workers. And they would wear this with a different sense of pride than what that Gildan that I would have normally gave you. And that was the first time I knew it clicked, because that was the first time he really realized, oh, so you make everybody else's brands. That's how you're growing so fast. That's correct. I don't compete with my distributors. I give them a comp in the marketplace that looks like a brand but has all my capabilities built inside of it, and it makes them the expert because it streamlines the process, and my project managers know that process and execute that process to control the distributor's experience, thus their client's experience.
What pressure have you had to branch out beyond T-shirts?
The pressure of branching out beyond T-shirts has been the need of growth and wanting to grow. So moving up the food chain in clothing, like polos and hoodies and things that sell at a higher price point. The problem with my widget is it's a $5 to $7, $10 widget. You have to sell a lot of those to equal a big number. But when I sell hoodies, the latitude in pricing allows me to sell $20, $25 items. And so I'm merchandising kits that are at different price buckets for my distributors. So if they've got a client that has a certain buying philosophy and it's commoditized uniforms, then they go take my top pick short sleeve crew neck butter kit and they go show that, and they kind of sell up the price ladder a little bit, but they start at the bottom and work up. If they're looking for hoodies and they're in the Northeast, it's not really about price. It's about surviving the geographical location. So they're not worried about putting $40 in a hoodie that's going to help that employee survive the road work they've got that night.
So you're already doing hoodies and other kinds of shirts besides T-shirts?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
And so we've streamlined into what we call our basics collection. It's called the butter collection, and everything we offer can be butter washed, doesn't have to be. It comes as a simple add-on, and you can basically, the process to Yorko is simple. There's 3 steps. You pick a garment, you pick an embellishment type, and you pick your finishing types, whether we're going to fold, polybag, UPC, size sticker, however we're going to package it for distribution. And that's what the distributor would walk through with my project managers. The distributor would owe us answers to the 5 questions to start a project, and from there we design for free all the way through the ship process, and they have one person they talk to that manages that whole project for them.
And do you do only the printing, or do you also do the embroidery?
We do all forms of embellishments. So I basically have 28 ways to decorate a garment without doing any creative artwork. So my creative teams do technical design, not necessarily creative design. We're working for Fortune 5,000 companies or better. They don't need me to show them cool taglines. They need me to manage their brand on this canvas they call a T-shirt or a wearable.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing the printing, the stitching, you putting like rhinestones on these things. I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean,
28 ways. Goodness.
So I have printed embroidery. I have printed leather. I have lenticular. I have sequins, nail heads, all dimensional, all 3D dimensional prints, all the way down to the butter watch, which is the softest printed T-shirt. So whether you love soft or you love specialty, boutique, we have it for you. And so my sales professionals have resale clients and they have promotional clients. And we service both sides of those. And we like to take and look lifestyle retail for our promotional clients because they want to take lifestyle to corporate America and want to get out of the commoditized game and into the lifestyle game.
So are most of the products you handle, are they being given away to somebody for a promotional reason by a company? They're not being sold through a a store or
Bucky's is one of the few resale clients that I have, and the reason is that there's an extra hand in that pot, and so with the promotional side, we're not dealing with real buyers. We're dealing with a marketing agent
right.
who's been given a budget, and they've got to spend that budget or they lose that budget. And their job is to show the return on investment from that budget and what that did in product recognition or product launch or company culture or employee incentives. And there's all kinds of programs that promotional product distributors use to promote a business. My job is to align my widget with that strategy.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk about the industry a little bit. What major threats or risks are there in the industry today?
I think I think there's disruptors across all kinds of industries. Amazon is certainly the one on top of everyone's head. Even in T-shirts, Amazon streamlines in. And in Dallas, Texas, Amazon has a manufacturing facility that does just T-shirts. They print only digital T-shirts, and they're going after a B2C consumer, a consumer that's at home that wants to order one. And they're in a one-to-one business model.
Oh.
I'm in a B2B model, and I'm at where they're 1 to 71 units or so. They really lose scales of economy about 71 units. I pick up my scales of economy at 72. So I've aligned my strategy to account for a side of the fence that maybe they don't know how to get to. And I won't be so naive to think that, but I'd think that they're going to have a harder time in their one-to-one model beating me at my own game when I've built my facility to do only one thing. So I'm really focused at staying in my niche and staying in my lane and understanding the difference between Amazon and where they're headed versus TShirt Tycoon and our distributors and how to differentiate them. My job is to make sure they can survive against an Amazon. And at 72 widgets or up, we can certainly survive.
And is there an upper limit on your production that then you start bumping up against the foreign manufacturers that make you less attractive?
With Trump handling these tariffs, it's changed the game dramatically in the sense that my USA-made T-shirt gained 17% against the market overnight.
17% at price advantage? Or?
Yeah, because the duties are now kicking in. So now when you go to China, what used to just be duties or taxes were one thing, but now they have a tariff on top. And that tariff is a 15% now, 25% coming soon. And now all of a sudden the costs have to be passed on to the consumer. So all of these programs that Walmart or anybody else is built on a model that's no longer sustainable because there is now a 25% duty or tariff on top of the taxes that you would have paid from an importer.
So that gives you a early Christmas gift, basically.
Yes.
Because now you can compete more directly, more competitively.
And I think Trump reached his goal. I mean, I think he differentiated American manufacturing. He's allowed us to still be in the technology age, still leverage technology to manufacture, but compete against foreign manufacturers.
But is that adding a tariff for the sake of just making Americans more competitive, or was that because of some sort of unfair trade on the other side?
I think it had to do with both. I think that the work conditions in a lot of these factories are not something that American companies want to know about, do know about, and would be embarrassed about. I think that was one side of it. The social side of it. Then you have ecological world issues of how they handle waste and all of the things that it's doing to our environment, and then you tack on the economic side of it, where, look, in China there's no labor per hour, it's per day. How do I compete with that? How do I compete with the widget, the cost of good that's coming from there? And it was a very, very tight model. Now with these tariffs, it's created some equal competition, and it's given me some elasticity to the model that I didn't have before.
So it's really an additional cost to the foreign manufacturer that really tries to account for the cost of the things they're doing, damage to the environment, whatever, and the competitive nature of what they're, if we import something to them, there's tariffs, so we're now having tariffs on them bringing into us.
And what's interesting is the manufacturers are passing the tariff on to the U.S. importers. So it then just gets passed to the consumers in what we call inflation.
It always does. It always ends up in the price of the product, right?
That's right.
Because otherwise you're going to end up with a bankruptcy of a manufacturer. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. I can't believe we're already done. Adam, we really enjoyed it. For our listeners, please go to ttycoon.com to learn more about TShirt Tycoon Solutions Incorporated. And Adam Walterscheid is the CEO of that. And we look forward to next week with another great guest. You can go to The Next Level Show on podcast or YouTube to find us. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for having me.